G'day, guys. We are live. You are watching the Home Invest School podcast. I'm your host, Graham Solomon. I've got a special guest from popular demand. The crowd was screaming out his name, so I had to bring him in. But before I introduce him, I just want you guys, if you're not already a part of the YouTube family, go to the YouTube channel, Social Media Blueprint or Home Invest School. Join, become a member, become part of the family. And if you're watching on Facebook, smash that like button, smash that heart button. Give this next guest plenty of love because he's a semi-cult figure in the Home Invest and the Social Media Blueprint realm. He's been touted as doing over 1,600 deals. I'm saying he's more near 1,700, maybe 1,800 now. We'll have to ask him that. But he's got a lot of deals under his belt, a lot of experience, and he rides shotgun with Nate, Kate, and the coaching team. And he's part of the fabric at Social Media Blueprint and Home Invest. Now, he also is half of the notorious Strickland brothers, which he says he's the better looking part and does all the work. And he is none other than one of my favorite people, Chris Strickland. Chris, welcome to the podcast.
Well, Graham, after that introduction, man, I thank you. I'm humbled. I don't know what to say. Wow, you make everyone feel so good when they come on here. So thank you very much. And by the way, I've talked to the authorities. They're gonna lay off for a little while. So don't worry, you're not gonna have to keep running.
Okay? At the airport, every time I come to fly over to Florida, right, they lock me up and say they've never heard of Chris Strickland. And I say he's got a ticket waiting for me. So we're gonna have to get through that, Chris. But I've just had a comment coming on the chats, and it's from, he says, the better looking Strickland brother. I'm out doing the work while Chris is getting all the glory. So I don't know what that's all about. Apparently, you blokes, I had Ryan and Austin on, two brothers, last week, and they used to fight in the backyard. I reckon you and your brother would have had a few scuffles back there in Texas, out in the dusty backyard, because highly competitive.
We definitely fought until he got bigger than me, and then I just learned that I could only push him so far before I'm like, okay, yeah. We'll back off here.
Yeah, well, look, all them days are behind you. You work as a team now, yes. And you've been quite successful, and you're out there in the trenches, Chris. That's what I like. It's not just like you hear about a lot of gurus out there that stop investing and stop doing stuff and become coaches, and that you guys and the team, including Nate, are out there in the trenches every day, and that's where you get a lot of your real grassroots, I guess, I don't know what the word would be, but you guys are constantly doing it. It's not like you sort of just become professional educators. You're out there making it happen. So, you probably come across things still to this day, even though you're experienced, that still set you back, that you can relay back to the students as little stories and anecdotes.
It's funny because after doing so many deals, you would think that it's all the same, right? It just over and over and over. And certainly there are elements of it that are the same, but I still to this day get surprised by how many twists and turns there are and how many things there are to learn. I don't think a person can ever know everything about real estate investing. And so that's why a lot of times when we talk to somebody that's new, that comes into our world, that's new to investing and everything, and they feel like, oh, I've got to know it all before I pull the trigger on anything, before I try and talk to anyone or look at a house or anything like that. I'm like, well, you're going to be waiting a while, because there's never that point where you know it all. So yeah, a lot of new things. Every deal, it seems like there's something new about it.
Yeah, and that's life in general too, isn't it? Not just real estate, but you get hit with curveballs all the time, and you've got to be able to adapt. And it's good that you relay it to the students, so you don't have to know everything. Just do step 1, 2, 3, and worry about 8, 9, and 10 later. So absolutely, that's what they need to know, because some people do get analysis paralysis. I mean, just so much to learn. So
very true.
And on that point, what are some of the key points, the key learnings that you still see today, that you try and tell new students as they come into the program, that that seem to pop up all the time? Like, are there certain obstacles that you see hit new investors as they come into programs, not just, obviously your program, but all programs? What are the key things that pop up that you hear from students that they get stuck on?
Well, there's probably more than this, but some of the things that I hear most often, and you're right, it's probably with every program, but it's also for people that aren't even going through a program. They're just trying to do it on their own, right? They're trying to go through. In fact, I just communicated with somebody today that they've done hundreds of deals themselves, but they've done every bit of it the traditional way, and they don't know anything about like creative finance or wholesaling or any of the other tools that a person should have in their tool bag. So anyway, there's probably a lot of different things. That being said, I think probably the greatest thing that a person can learn that's going to really help them in their business kind of ties into what we were talking about a second ago. And that is, don't focus so much on knowing all the details about, how to do a deal or whatever. Rather focus on getting really, really good at going to some source that can give you the answers, right? Because I tell people that's what I'm good at. I don't know every little deal. Sometimes people ask me really detailed questions about some of the paperwork, for instance, some of the contracts and things. And I know contracts fairly well, but I'm not an attorney and I don't know all the details about them, but I do know the people to go and talk to get those details. I do know where to go to, to get advice and to find out answers to questions that I have or that people that I'm working with have and things like that. So yeah, learn the program, learn the techniques and everything, but don't worry so much about the details. I have found that people that get bogged down in the details oftentimes don't do a whole lot of investing. They get so bogged down that they don't really take a ton of action. So I'd rather see a person take action and get really good at knowing where to go to find the answers.
And this is a question I ask a lot of people that come on that are experienced. When it comes to sort of long-term success, because you've been in the industry a long time, Nate has, Kate has, everyone. What's the difference? What makes you guys be able to sustain it and stay in the business long term when people sort of fall at the wayside? What traits are there that make people just last the distance? Because that's probably something that someone that's new wants to know, so they can try and take on those traits.
Wow, that's a really good question. So a couple of things are coming to my mind. One is frustration and overwhelm, right? Just understanding how is a lot of people, and this is true in any kind of sales, but a lot of people, when you're in some type of a sales role, so in our case where we're investors and we're working with sellers and possibly buyers and everybody involved, when you're in some type of a sales role, there's always the peaks and the valleys, right? People going up and down. One month you might have a lot of sales, the next month you got nothing, right? You've hit the desert. And so people don't know how to adapt to that. They don't, for instance, set aside money to make sure that they've got enough for the rainy day, because the rainy days happen, right? The valleys, the low times in the business do happen. So they don't know how to adapt to that in the beginning. And then as you start to build your business and as those peaks and valleys start to kind of level off and become a little bit shallower, then at that point, or to make that happen, you've got to really get the lead generation just finely tuned so that the leads come in all the time. Because if you have the leads, that's the key, right? If you have the leads, then all the rest of it can happen. So those are a couple of my initial thoughts. But then another thing that I think helped me is I began investing back in, I did a little bit, I dabbled in it in 2005, 2006. But then 2007 is when I went in full time. And so January, so just 2 months from now, about 6 weeks from now, I'm going to hit my 16-year mark investing full time. And awesome. And I think one of the things that's helped me is that I began, if everybody's listening recalls, 2007, 2008, not very kind to the real estate market. That's when, here in the States at least, that's when we just, the market just took a nosedive and hit bottom, I think, finally in 2012 by most people's analysis. So we had several years there, 3 to 4 years there, where it was just pretty barren. I started during that time. And so I started at the bottom. So everything else was gravy, right? Everything else,
Yeah.
as things grew, looked really good. So I think starting at that time and going through that full market cycle and everything really helped, because if you look over the last 2 or 3 years, probably the last 5 or 6 years, things have been on a very, very steady upward climb. And then the last few years, it just really took off. It just really went northbound. And so a lot of people were riding high. People that were just getting into investing and everything were riding high for the last few years. And I haven't seen the stats on it yet, but I suspect if a person, as the dust starts to settle and everything, I suspect that we'll see that in the last few months, we'll see a lot of real estate agents have quit the business or gone out to find another job and kind of put this on the back burner. And I suspect that the same thing will be true of potential investors, people that were thinking, oh, I can make money in real estate. And then the market starts to crash. And all of a sudden they're thinking, can I still do this? Is the market still going to be there? And all that. When the reality is, right now is the absolute best time to be investing. Right now, and as we move into these next several months, it is the best time. I made more money from 2007 to 2012 than a person ought to be able to make. And so we're right at the very beginning of the next cycle that's going to make a whole lot of real estate millionaires.
Yeah, that's the word on the street, isn't it? That's, these times are when you can really start doing creative stuff, lease options, seller finance, sub to, all that other stuff comes into play. You just made a really interesting point, Chris, is that transition that you said, peaks and troughs, and people struggle with those peaks and troughs. Now, if you've been self-employed and you've had your own business, you deal with those peaks and troughs. You become conditioned to that. But if you've been an employee, and even if you've been like at a high level and you've been in charge of a couple hundred people and you think, I know how to manage people, I know how to manage business, you don't know how to manage those peaks and troughs. That's usually what the hierarchy have to deal with. And it's the old duck on the pond, gracefully gliding across the surface, but underneath paddling. So that can be probably a thing that people that haven't had to do that can actually struggle when they hit the real estate market, because there's too many peaks and troughs. They've used to been going to a job and it's very consistent all the way through. So that's another little gold nugget in there on top of what you said. So you're given gold nuggets you don't even realize, Chris. They're just coming out left, right, and center. Now we've had talking about riding shotgun. We've had Whetstone Kate. Now that'd be Kate Whetstone. Has said, Graham, Chris, power hour. So you've got one of your fans in the house already, cheering for you, Chris. So there you go. That's Kate. G'day, Kate. Always good to hear from you. Kate's always very positive. And that gets me to the next topic. You guys have just come off a 3-day challenge workshop.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't able to get there. So can you just fill me in on how that went, Chris? How that went with all the people that come into the workshop, and how the team went, how the team performed?
Wow, it was fantastic. I think we had a couple of hundred people attending, which was phenomenal to be able to see so many people that are looking to make changes in their lives or better it and learn more about real estate investing and everything. So it was absolutely fantastic. Tons and tons of participation. Speaking of Kate, which you're right, she's always so positive and everything. So whatever you say about her is going to stay just between us. We don't want that to get back to her. But no, it was
off now. Yeah.
Okay, good. No, it was fantastic. Actually, during that 3 days, it was really cool because Kate actually gave some challenges out to folks, and she taught them some principles, some things that they can go and do in their own investing world and everything. And she gave them these challenges, and those that took her up on the challenge and actually did what she taught them to do, I was blown away with the results that they got in one night, right? So she gave them something to do, and then the next day they came back and she checked with them to see, what the results were. And just in one night, the amount of leads, the amount of deals that they were being sent and all that it just absolutely blew me away. And so, yeah, it was a fantastic 3-day event. Absolutely.
Yeah, I've just brought up the Facebook group. I was in the Facebook group just checking in, and I saw all those. There was people,
Oh, yeah.
with deals. There was people getting stuff sent to them. So it's pretty exciting because a lot of people are going, "Wow, this actually works." This stuff works, and I was sort of cheering them on, doing a bit of a cheer squad thing in there, and just cheering them on. Way to go and everything. And like you said, Kate was in there as she usually is, cheering them on, saying, and a few people sort of like, "What do I do now?" And she said, come back into the VIP rooms,
Yep.
and we'll do step 3 and 4 now. So so there's the Facebook group, guys. Anyone that's watching that's not in the Facebook group, jump in. And I always say that Nate does so many lives and so much content in there. It's worth jumping in just for that. But it's a community that's building up to nearly 10,000 people. Jump in there, and then I'll also jump. I'll head across to the wrong button. That's a rookie mistake. To the YouTube channel. Jump on the YouTube channel. Nate is going gangbusters. I think he's doing 24/7. He's on TikTok. He's on Instagram. He's doing YouTube things. I don't think he's sleeping at the moment. He's just putting out that much awesome content. So join the YouTube channel. I had it up on the screen before. It's just gone into sleep mode. But take advantage of all this free content. Like, what Kate was sort of sharing during the 3-day workshop really works, and that's completely free. So take advantage of it. Start in these places at ground zero, and then work your way up. So anyway, I just thought I'd plug those groups there, Chris, for a sec. Awesome. Now I want to talk one of the big topics, and there's a real buzz at the moment. One of the topics at the 3-day challenge, and that's really revolutionising things at the moment, is SLP. Now I want people to say, what's SLP? I'm hearing this word SLP. So I thought I'll get Chris to do a Reader's Digest, bit of a quick overview on what the SLP method is.
Absolutely. Yeah, SLP is so cool. So SLP, just in a nutshell, we call it our Set for Life program. And inside the Set for Life program, we teach a process that we refer to as SLP. What the SL and P stand for is 1, selecting a property, 2, leveraging that property, and 3, partnering with an equity partner so that you don't have to bring cash to the deal. So what we really want people to do with SLP is, for those that are watching and paying attention that are familiar with wholesaling has a lot of advantages in the real estate world, in the investment world, because it is probably the fastest way to put a pretty sizable chunk of money in a person's bank account, right? Not too much effort, but a pretty good payday. And so you have wholesaling, but it's always been at odds with rentals, with buying and holding on to property, because we know that wholesaling is going to give us that money really quick up front. But we also simultaneously, we know that, man, I'd really like to be building my portfolio so that little by little, I'm putting more and more properties in my portfolio, which are giving me a monthly return. I'm getting cash flow. And that ultimately is what's going to get us out of, for instance, a day job, right? So these two things have always kind of been at odds. Nate has actually been able to bring the two of these things together so that you actually get paid up front to own a rental property, which is so very cool. So we get the best of both worlds. We get the income that a wholesale deal would give us, we'll say, for instance, $10,000, and we still get to keep that property and get all the residual income off of that property, along with our investment partner, our equity partner. So it's a pretty cool process.
And once again, they've been at odds with each other. Now you've joined them together. So it's like a hybrid method, isn't it? It's a hybrid method where you get the best of both worlds. And what I like with it, Chris, is you also can do multiple deals with an investor. Once an investor sees the returns, physically gets the return and goes, wow, let's go again. Let's go again. And you can do it with multiple investors. You can build up a portfolio really quick. And which leads me to the next question, which is, why is SLP such a good tool in today's market? You touched on it before about how the market's shifting across and people are jumping out of it left, right, and center. Why is it such an effective tool in today's market with the market shift?
Absolutely. So, I mean, if we take a look at what's happening in the market, first and foremost, we're going to start to be able to see, I'm already starting to see them in my markets, but we're going to start to see property prices, instead of the steep climbs that we've seen, we're going to start to see a little bit of a leveling off. Or they'll probably still climb in some areas, and then they'll decline in some areas. But in either case, they won't have the steep, ascensions that we've been seeing. So that's one thing that's working for us. The other thing is that with SLP, I am not having to bring my own money. I mentioned it, but I didn't really emphasize that. I'm not having to bring my money to the deal. And so if we take another, for instance, technique like the Burr method. Burr has been really, really popular over the last several years and everything. And it's a good, viable method, but we still hit limitations. Right? I still hit a limitation of I can only have so many loans out in my name or my business name or anything like that. And so we still hit limitations. And I'm bringing cash out of my pocket to fund the down payments or if there's rehab needed and things like that. And so, again, limitations. With SLP, I'm not bringing any of my own money to the table. I'm bringing an equity partner's money to the table. And so with their money, then I'm going out and buying these properties, getting a loan when necessary, but I'm doing it in such a way to where I can do it over and over and over again, rather than the limitations that come otherwise, come through other methods. And again, I'm doing it. I can have multiple deals going on. I can do several, like you said, with one investor, one equity partner, or I can have dozens of equity partners and do dozens of deals. So it just, again, there are no real limits to doing these types of deals. As far as the market, you mentioned the market. As far as the market goes, we're going to start to see some loosening up of prices and stuff. Interest rates are going up. That is one, I guess, downside to things. However, one point I'll emphasize there is, and I love this. I didn't create it. Some of you all have probably heard it, but you date the interest rate, you marry the house or the property, right? And so people get really wound up about the high interest rates. We're, wherever they are, they're around 7% now, 7.5%, somewhere in there. Wherever they go to, it really doesn't matter because it's going to be relatively temporary, right? They'll subside again sooner or later. And so get the rate that you can for right now, knowing that maybe a few years down the road, we're going to refinance and get a lower rate again or something like that. Or we'll use some creative financing and we'll tap into what other people have already existing. Like if they have a current rate on their house of 3.5% or 4%, then we'll do some creative investing with them and hopefully be able to tap into that. So there's just no limits. We can do a lot of different things.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, this system can be used. You could set up all your deals on seller finance. So, I mean, the investor brings funds, hard funds, and your part of the deal is done on, if you've got the deal on seller finance at a lower rate than what the banks are charging. You can negotiate that, like sub twos, all sorts of different methods can be used. Yeah. So it's not just one method. You can mold this around what you want to do. So it's pretty exciting stuff, Chris. And I mean, I haven't looked into it, but I'm sure you could probably do lease options. You could do short-term SLPs, 3-year ones or 5-year ones. So the sky's the limit. So I'm sure the powers to be are trying to work out all these different ways. And I'm sure, like with students coming up with ideas of how they'd like to structure the way it looks for them. But it's just amazing. And just had someone, it's anonymous though, this is amazing. And I just say, well, I've got Chris Strickland in. Of course, it's amazing. I think that's either my mum or Kate's Anne, who was the first Facebook group I ever was in. She's a big fan of mine because I was in her Facebook group. But it probably could be my mum. But anyway, or it's Nate with one of his dodgy things, just keeping an eye on us. It could be that as well, Chris. So we just got to be on our best behaviour.
Yes.
So that's awesome, Chris. Thanks for that. That really explains it really simply. Like that is the true Reader's Digest version. I mean, obviously there's more moving parts than that, and that's why you need to learn it. But it just gives a breath of fresh air because a lot of people have been exhausted in a hot market from wholesaling, and they're just like, I'm ready to give up. A lot of people have gone, wow, I did 20 wholesale deals in the last year or 2 years. If I'd have done the SLP, I'd have 20, I'd have a certain amount of income, and I would have still made the same money, cash flow. So it's just a great concept, and yeah, it's amazing. And I'm surprised that I'm surprised that more people sort of haven't sort of thought of this. It's just a great concept. So anyway, we'll park that. That explains, as you said earlier, with the market going sideways and we believe dropping, and I'm seeing it in the stuff that I'm doing. I'm seeing on market stuff dropping 5,000-10,000 now. It's all, there's a lot of stuff sitting on for 90 days, which you just didn't see.
That's right.
I'm going, wow, it's really starting to show you just go on Zillow, you just go on Redfin, it's there. You can't deny it anymore. So
that's so true. Just real quickly, the house right next door to mine has now been on the market. My neighborhood prior, 3 months ago, houses in my neighborhood were going under contract in 5 to maybe 10 days, that time range. And since things have began to slow down, this house has probably been on the market now, I'm guessing about 2.5 months. So getting close to 90 days. And so, yeah, things are slowing down, and I'm in, again, a really, really hot market. Now some markets are still really hot. They're going to begin cooling sooner or later. Other markets have been cool for a little bit longer, but yeah, we're starting to see that. And then one other thing, I was looking at a property night before last, and now this is in a different market, another market I'm considering, but I saw a $500,000 property that had a price reduction of $100,000, $101,000. And I'm like, holy cow, we wouldn't have seen that 3 months ago.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really, the handbrake's been pulled on, isn't it? It
is.
So once again, opportunity, opportunities there now. It was such a hot market for so long that I think people were getting frustrated. Investors were getting frustrated, but now's the time. And like Nate says, and you can actually go out there and serve people as well. You can actually help people that are stuck, that have to move houses. They've got no choice. You can work with those people, and it could be a win-win for everyone. But just one quick thing that just shot across my mind as you're talking about the SLP is, what a great strategy where realtors won't clash with investors anymore. The whole wholesaling thing. You have realtors, that's illegal, you can't do that. And there was this real fight amongst, well, you're keeping the property now and you're bringing in an investor, so it's actually there's no conflict. So I think we could all sing "We Are the World" together. Investors, realtors, wholesalers, everyone will come together. This could unite the world. This SLP, Chris. I mean,
I love your vision. I love
world peace through SLP. I don't know. I might have to do a cover version of John Lennon's Imagine and just try and put SLP in there.
Let's bring all the musicians. Let's get the musicians from We Are the World back together again. And
SLP will be the new thing. So well done, Nate. You're always the visionary. Well done. Now I'm going to get you to put your head of coaching cap on, and I'm just going to ask you a few questions about SMB, which is Social Media Blueprint, which is, I guess, the lead generating machine, isn't it? That's
correct.
That's where that come from, and still a very important part of what's happening at Home Invest is the SLP is the engine room, I guess. The SMB. When people come into the program, is lead generation the number one thing they're struggling with? What do you see is that what most investors struggle with, getting leads to get deals?
So that's actually a really good question, because just in the last couple of days, we've had two new people that joined for that exact reason. In one case, the person had a number of rental properties, so they had the properties. In the other case, they were quite good at flipping properties. But when I asked them, okay, what was it that pushed you over the edge that made you want to join our coaching program? In both cases, they were like, we want more leads. We want to have the just a steady stream of leads coming in and everything. And so, yeah, I would say that probably quite a few of them do join us just for that one reason, just for lead generation.
Yeah,
Others need everything, right? So they need the
yeah,
hand holding from the very beginning as a brand new person that's just wanting, just kind of dabbling in real estate, and they're wanting to make it a full time thing, and then everyone in between. So dabbling to all the way through to
yeah,
just really increasing their market share and everything.
yeah, yeah. I mean, the SMB course covers everything from for if you're a beginner, if you're intermediate, if you're trying to scale, it covers everything from basically lead generation all the way through. So it's not just a lead generation, you know, machine, but
Right.
the whole inbound marketing side of Facebook. A lot of people come from the outside world of doing cold calling, bandit
Yeah.
signs, all that, and they're just frustrated because it's been so competitive. To have leads come into them, and it's a different conversation to have with the seller when you're getting an inbound call. It's like, I guess, the old direct mail. It's a complete different than ringing someone up in their house who's been there for 47 years and say, "Hey, you want to sell your house?" Because they're on a unknown equity list or so, like it's a
That's
different
right.
conversation. So
That's
that's
right.
just one part of it. And like what are the other, say, the next couple of issues that people are struggling with? Is it other than just lead generation?
I,
What do you find are the main reasons that people reach out for help?
So we see a variety of things. Lead generation is probably one of the top. But another thing that I see quite often just in day-to-day coaching and everything is just confidence,
Mm,
right? Because some people, they've been through all of the videos on YouTube University regarding real estate investing, right? They've subscribed to this person, they've subscribed to that person, they've subscribed to Nate, they've subscribed to whoever, and so they get all of this information. Some of it conflicts, some of it works together, but they get all this information on real estate investing. But there's a difference between just knowing how to do it or seeing other people talk about how to do it and everything, and actually deciding, okay, today I'm making an offer. Today I'm going out, I'm finding a property, and I'm going to make an offer. I'm not going to bed till the offer gets made, right?
mm,
Or this week or whatever. And so it boils down to confidence. And a lot of that confidence they are lacking because they don't really have somebody that they can talk to. They don't really have somebody that they can say, hey, I've watched your training. I know what you say in the training. I've analyzed this deal, but I'm scared. I don't know what to do.
mm.
My heart's beating fast. It's going to beat out of my chest. And I'm just not sure. And so they need that bit of hand holding, confidence boost, whatever, to say, yeah, you've calculated that correctly. Go make your offer. Or, you know what? I'm glad you asked me about that, because if it were me, I would tweak this, or I would change that, or I think you should make the offer in this way, or whatever. But it boils down to confidence, right? The more confident a person can be, and there are a lot of things that can go into that confidence, but the more confident that they can be in making that offer, the more likely that they're going to be to get the offer accepted, first of all. But then it's just going to boost it in every subsequent offer, right? Every time they make an offer, their confidence level is going to grow that much more. So I would say I see confidence. It's way up on that scale, because knowing how to do it, that's probably another thing. Just knowing what the steps to doing a deal are is
Yeah,
also very, very important. And we get a lot of questions on that. But even beyond that, I think it boils down to just people wanting that reassurance that they're doing
yeah.
it right, or that they're not going to get stuck in it or whatever.
Actually, just listen to you then, Chris. That actually probably trumps lead generation. When it's confidence, it's mindset, it's that belief that you can build over time because you've got supportive people that have done, 1,500, 2,000, 500 deals. You've got people that have been there, done that, seen all the stuff that gets thrown at you, and to have that support. One of the things I love about Nate is Nate when you do 3-day challenges. I did a 5-day challenge, I think it was a year ago, and that's how I come into SMB. He's like, you got to play higher. You've got to get, if you're going to come into this, come in and you've got to go up to a higher level. And that's like sport. If you play sport and you get pushed up to a higher level, it's that you just have to perform at a higher level. And that's what he does with these workshops, is he gets people to a higher level. And all of a sudden people come in the next day and go, oh my God, I've got 5 people contact me. What do I do? And he's just calm down. We'll deal with that today. And then, you know what I mean? But it does, it's being able to show somebody that you can do it. You can actually go out there and do that. And now that you've done that, you know how to do it. Now, the next thing is, how do you negotiate with that person? How do you go through? And I think it's the old monkey see, monkey do. Once you've actually done something physically yourself, rather than learning it off YouTube or just taking in intellectual knowledge, once you physically go through the process and you have that support, bang, you're away. So confidence, I think that might trump lead generation there, Chris. I didn't ever think of that, but once you've got that confidence, the leads will flow in. You'll be able to handle them. And I think another thing that I always say is, I think being able to talk to sellers is a big phobia a lot of people have. And when you learn how to do that with confidence and the way to present yourself, you're away. Then the rest is just detail. So no, thanks for sharing that. And when people do get that penny drop aha moment, what do you think the outcome? Can you see a massive outcome difference? Do you see how they came into it all nervous, and then do you see a different outcome of say a month or 2 months?
Yeah, well, and it doesn't even have to be that long. It can literally be that day.
Yeah.
And going back to what you asked about earlier about the challenge that we did last week, just those 3 days. I mean, I literally saw people come out of that with just all this enthusiasm and energy and everything, because they literally saw from just one thing that we taught over those 3 days, just one thing, they went and took action, implemented it, and then they're like, holy cow, this works. It works just like they said it works. And so it doesn't have to take 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. It can, at least portions of it can be done just in the snap of a finger almost. I remember prior to COVID, I used to go out and teach this stuff live in person. I've even been down to your neck of the woods, down there in the Melbourne area and Sydney and stuff. And
I didn't get the memo. I would have come, but I didn't get the memo.
We kind of kept it under our hat.
I was at the airport.
You were trying to get this way, weren't
you? Yeah.
But it was amazing, because as we're preparing to start the 3-day event that I used to put on live, I would hear people as they're coming into the room, they'd be talking with each other and making these comments. And they would say something like, oh, I sure hope this works, or, oh, this better work, or, oh, I put so much money into this, I really hope that I get some results. And over the course of the 3 days, as they did the things that we taught them, they got results. And with every new result that they got, their confidence boosted a little bit. And so you mentioned a minute ago, mindset, that maybe mindset, and that this whole confidence discussion, it kind of trumps lead generation. Yeah, it probably does. And here's the sad part. And so for anybody that's listening, I want you to listen to this closely. Mindset will determine absolutely everything that you want to do. Absolutely everything. And yet it's probably the piece that gets glossed over the most, right? So for instance, in our program, in Social Media Blueprint program, we have a portion, not a large portion, but a portion on mindset. And then we get into real estate training, and then the marketing and lead generation, all the other stuff, right? But we start off with mindset. That's the very, very beginning of the program. And yet when I'll go back and talk to somebody later on after they've gone through a portion of the program, guess what part they did not do in some cases, or glossed over, or just barely touched on it or whatever? It's the mindset part, because the exciting part is doing the deals, right? The exciting part is looking at properties and making offers and all that kind of stuff. And I get it. It excites me. I love that aspect of it. But it's the mindset that determines all the rest of it. And so for anybody that's listening, I would just tell you, learn what you need to learn about real estate. Get you a mentor. If that's us, that's Nate, that's great. If it's Graham, that's great. Get you a mentor, but and learn what you need to learn about real estate, but don't forget what's up here, because it's going to determine all the rest of it. It's going to determine how long you stick with it. It's going to determine how deep you dive into it, how much you study real estate on an ongoing basis. Earlier, you asked me a question, Graham. Why do some people get in it and stay in it for years, like myself, like Nate, like some of the others? Why do we stay in it for years versus the person that gets in it for a year or two and then bows out, right? Or even a month or two and then bows out. Well, it's not because we know anything more. It's not because we knew anything more when we began. It's because of the mindset.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah. Well, I was going to try and keep it short because I know that you're a busy man, Chris, and we've gone to about 40 minutes. But I just want to do a shout out. You've blown up international. We've got Aussie Warren Clark, who's a friend of mine, who's just given the thumbs up from Australia. He's just gone. He's a fan of yours. He says to me, "I love when you interview Chris."
I'm sure he did.
No, seriously. When you've been on a rival podcast, I can't mention the Thunder from Down Under, and he really likes and the mindset. He likes that you talk about the mindset, and we went a bit deeper into it last time I interviewed you. But he's shouting out. We've got Kate, and we've got Kate's nan, who I'm the #1 fan in her Facebook groups. We've got some huge names that have been watching this podcast today, so we'll sign out now. I've put the Facebook group down there again because if you're watching and you're not a part of the social media Blueprint family or the Home Invest family, jump in the Facebook group. Like I said, it's the best place to jump into. You get access to a lot of Nate's stuff. Chris doesn't go in there that much, so I'm in there a bit, so I'll handball you over to Chris. But any questions, usually when we do the welcome, if you want to book a discovery call, I can put you across to people there. So that's a really good, it's a really good place to start to reach out. And obviously, Chris, people can, Google it or go onto the YouTube channel to reach out to you guys direct.
Absolutely.
I don't know if we really need to put any contact points because if you go to the Facebook group and the YouTube channel, you can reach out from there. But anyone through the podcast, through anything, just reach out and we'll set you up with Chris. Chris has been a big influence on myself. I don't like to go on it too much because Nate gets a bit jealous. But Chris has been a fantastic stalwart for a lot of people that have come through the program, and they say that he really set them straight, and the mindset stuff was very important. So thank you very much, Chris, for coming on to the Home Invest School podcast, for breaking down the SLP, and for just continuing to share your knowledge with the greater. This is going out to a few other groups as well. So to share your knowledge and your experience with people out there that are trying to make a difference in their life. So appreciate everything that you do, and we'll sign out, Chris. And like I say, because of Chris Strickland, you have been schooled at Home Invest. So, all right, guys, thanks for joining us. Hope you got something out of it. Join the Facebook group. It's on the screen, and we'll see you on the inside. All right, thanks, Chris.